TPStrafficJAM, where we jam about traffic, and today, fire, because I have Deputy Fire Chief Larry Cocco in studio, and we're talking about stuff and things, specifically things that will impact or could impact you. How's it going?
Awesome. Thank you, Sean, for having me.
I'm glad that we got to connect. I got really interested in the discussion we had on a chat. It was actually a group meeting. We were talking about batteries, and it was Thermal Runaway.
That is correct.
And you showed me a video, which I'll attach in here so others can see it, but it blew me away. Batteries, not always stable.
That is correct. So technology has been evolving, and lithium ion batteries is an amazing technology. It gives you a lot of energy in a very small package. Now, to put it in perspective, some of the new e-bikes, the range that you can get 50 to 70 kilometers on a battery, if you were using older lead acid technology batteries, you'd need to have a trailer behind the bike with a couple hundred kilograms of batteries.
Wow. Just
to give you the equivalent range and power. So the technology is amazing. But with that small package and a lot of power is when they fail, it's quite considerable, because the technology, it's not like a normal battery. It goes into thermal runaway and you can't stop it. Once it starts, that exothermic reaction occurs. Hot gases are produced. There's an explosive and fire risk, and it's quite volatile, and it's not gradual. When they fail, it's dramatic.
I've recently seen some TikToks where a guy's riding an e-bike, and while he's riding it, it starts smoking. And then he pulls over, throws the kickstand, and it just bursts into flames. So it doesn't have to happen while it's being charged. It could happen at any time.
Correct.
So how do you protect yourself?
So what we're seeing in Toronto, we've seen an increase year over year. So just to give it into context, in 2021, we had 9 lithium-ion battery fires. 2022, 29. This year, we're not even almost at the end of the year, and we're at 53.
Okay, that's a considerable
80% increase, and a majority, if not all, of the incidents involve micromobility. So lithium-ion batteries come into multiple categories. So cell phones, laptops, we're not seeing that issue with the lithium-ion batteries. We've seen occasional, one of the cautions with a cell phone and or a laptop, don't charge it on a soft surface. Because your laptop's got a little fan in it. It's designed to cool down. So whatever you do, don't leave it on your bed, charging on your bed, because there's no way for it to dissipate. The battery then can heat up and fail. Same with your cell phone. I don't know if you have any teenagers at home. I'm not fun to be around, because when I see the phone under the pillow, it's no longer under the pillow. It's removed, because Dad has to talk about the risk with lithium-ion batteries. And of course, most teenagers roll their eyes at you, say, "Oh, come on, Dad." And then you show them the video and they're like, "Oh, oh."
Suddenly means something.
Correct, because it's a small package. People don't think of the risk, but the cell phones and laptops haven't been an issue for us. Electric vehicles, again, lithium-ion battery technology. The fire service is having to evolve on tactics because the technology's changed. These aren't like combustion engines where we get dispatched, car on fire, put the water on it, suppress it. It's a quick event. Lithium-ion batteries, because of the nature of thermal runaway, especially in an EV, in order to stop the process, you got to cool the battery. Well, the battery's underneath the vehicle in a metal box that's protected from accidents, and very difficult to cool that down. So the event could last up to 12 hours. And water will not suppress. Once the thermal runaway occurs, water ain't stopping it.
And you have to be able to reduce it rapidly. So you need like the ray gun that freezes things from your favorite superhero movie. Because what else can you do other than
let it burn? So the manufacturers actually have response guidelines that our staff and crews are training, and part of their training is to have a repertoire of all the vehicles. And the manufacturers provide recommended strategies in emergencies. Auto extrication, for example, suppression of fires, submersion in water. All those scenarios are discussed in the response guide, and our crews are learning that and applying it. But we haven't seen a lot of EV fires in Toronto. To be honest, in the last 3 years, 2. And in comparison to combustion engines, we've had 350.
So I was shocked that there were more fires with combustion engines than EVs. I just did not expect that to be the case.
Well, part of it's market share. I don't think we could say that the market share is equivalent. There's more combustion engines on the road than EVs. The EVs are more new technology. What we're seeing is micro-mobility fire devices, and that's e-bikes, e-scooters, and hoverboards. This technology's changed things. Just imagine the freedom you have with a 50 to 70 kilometer range scooter. Now, I'm not even going to get into the legalities of where you can drive them because the Highway Traffic Act and all. I'll defer that to you.
Thank you.
But in regards to fire safety, they provide a lot of freedom. There's a lot of potential. You can use them to scoot around town, get all your errands done. They don't take up a lot of space. They're relatively inexpensive. But what we're seeing is a risk in fire from common themes. Number one, overcharging. People are overcharging the batteries. It's going into failure, thermal runaway.
Well, because they're not necessarily a smart charger where you see in some high-end battery chargers that they know what's happening and they shut down and they regulate. These are chargers that may just provide power until they're unplugged.
Well, and there's two issues with that. Individuals are using the wrong charger, not rated for the device, or you're not purchasing a rated device. So in Canada, ULC, that's an accredited tested agency. Most electronics and electrical devices have to have that kind of rating to be sold in Canada. That means it's undergone stringent testing safety protocols. Well, with the advent of e-commerce and internet sales, there's a lot of stuff coming into the market that's not certified. So what we recommend is if you're going to buy one of these devices, buy it from a reputable manufacturer, someone who has a good track record with histories and reviews, and make sure it's a certified product. It's tested.
A lot of the products you see on the road and that we see when we pull over or deal with an investigation after a collision is that these are products that are imported directly through various websites and they're shipped direct. They're not sold with a Canadian middle person, and they're generally not certified.
That's correct.
So that is where a lot of the issue is. You have various qualities getting through.
Correct. So that's number one issue we're seeing in failure. Number two is modifying the devices. People are adding additional batteries for more power or range or modifying the device to the point where twisted wire connections with tape, not a good outcome. So we're seeing failures there. Use of damaged batteries. So if you drop the battery pack or it's been damaged in a collision, I would recommend going to your service provider to have it tested or checked before you use it, because the cells, if they're damaged, punctured, compressed, that could lead to thermal runaway. I'll give you an example. We had a fire last year in a warehouse that stored e-bikes. So it was a distribution warehouse. We had a fire. One of the e-bikes that was returned failed, went into thermal runaway. 2 days later, the investigation team is doing the fire investigation. They're excavating the area of interest. One of the batteries catches fire in thermal runaway. 2 days after we'd suppressed the fire. It gets even better. 87 days later, those batteries that were removed from the warehouse and placed in a staging area by the owner, pending their disposal, started on fire again.
Wow.
Almost 3 months. So thermal runaway, when a cell is damaged through either mechanical, physical damage, or thermal damage, can happen days, hours, even weeks later.
That's exactly what came to mind when we started talking about this in that meeting, was that someone who gets involved in a collision, falls down, has some kind of event with that e-bike, assumes everything's fine because nothing's on fire right now, puts it away in their garage and doesn't think about it for a while because they're healing. And suddenly their house is on fire. Like that, they don't necessarily put it together, that contact. So getting it checked out.
Physical inspection. Is the battery compartment dented, punctured? Is there a crack in it? Those are telltale signs. Have it checked out because it may not be safe anymore. In a motor vehicle, if the motor vehicle collision is significant enough where the electrical or battery pack's been impacted, the first responders have to look at that differently. That there is a risk those batteries go into thermal runaway. So all the way from transportation of that vehicle then to storage at the tow yard, it should be kept a certain distance from other combustibles because you never know when that's going to go into thermal runaway.
Towing impounds are now putting up like concrete barriers between these vehicles, which is also increasing costs. I've heard rumors in the States that could increase the cost of towing and impound fees for electric vehicles. So that's it. Whether that happens here or not, I don't know. But it is interesting how they are put into a position to to prepare for the possibility, and that may cause an impact. EVs are great and they're cost effective until something goes wrong, and then suddenly there's all sorts of other things going on.
Well, there's a different dynamic in addressing emergencies. It's not like a combustion engine. You have different risks associated with it, and one of them, like the obvious one, is electrocution from first responders. So they need to isolate the power in the battery pack when they're doing extrication. Fires are a different issue whatsoever. I had a colleague of mine from the United States. They couldn't put this fire out.
Wow.
They saw the exhaust tailpipe, assumed it's a combustion engine. Why won't this fire go out? Lo and behold, they found out after it was a hybrid with a battery. And because by the time they arrived on the highway, all of the badging had been consumed. They had no way of knowing it was a hybrid, and that's why they realized it's not going out.
You just made me think of something entirely different. I saw a video on YouTube where a guy was claiming his Tesla was a hybrid. What he was doing was he had a small generator, gasoline generator, in his trunk, trying to charge the car while he drove. I'm assuming there's some safety issues with that.
Yeah, I could think of the carbon monoxide issue to start with, and I don't think Tesla would authorize that type of work to keep you under your warranty. It's interesting. Technology is amazing. We have done a great job in inventing safe devices, safe processes, safe equipment. The one thing we've yet to figure out how to engineer people. Because what we'll do innately is people will alter devices for whatever reasons and then create the problem. So, the biggest takeaway we can say for lithium ion batteries and the micromobility, do not modify the devices. Use the charger that came with it. Mm-hmm. Use the battery pack that the manufacturer recommends, and I highly recommend using original equipment manufacturing. Don't use it if it's been damaged or altered. Don't use a different battery pack. And more importantly, do your homework. Price point may not be the greatest thing. Look for certified products that are gone through that testing. And this is a prevalent issue right now. Lithium ion batteries are across the board. I'm not saying lithium ion batteries are not safe. What we're stressing is the safe usage. It's when you depart from the manufacturer's recommended usage and instructions, that's where we're seeing problems.
And we talk about charging only when supervised, like not plug it and go to work and come back and hopefully your house is still there. That's a risk in itself.
Yeah, most manufacturers recommend that during charging that the device is being supervised. And I've heard people say, well, that's not practical. Well, I appreciate it's not practical, but that's what the manufacturer's telling you to do. Now I'm going to do a parallel. Most automotive manufacturers will tell you when you get in your vehicle, you should put your seatbelt on, right? Regardless that it's the law, you should be doing it. They're recommending for your own safety. If you choose not to follow the manufacturer's instructions, you're assuming that risk.
Yes.
So, and that's one of the things. We don't recommend it being charged in your home that blocks your egress, because we mentioned that video we talked about earlier from the Fire Safety Research Institute. Watch that video and imagine: can you exit your house or your apartment if it's by the door? No. You're trapped at that point. So we recommend, if you have a garage, charge it in the garage. If you don't have a garage and you can do it safely, I know there's concerns of theft, charge them outside. And if you can't do that, put it in an area that doesn't block your egress and supervise it. Supervise it at all times. Be present.
Because it doesn't take long for these fires to spark and spread. I couldn't get over, and we've played this, I'm sure, at least once while we've been talking. These fires pick up from the gases we can't see to the flames. It's done.
Correct. So once they fail, by nature, there's gases that are highly volatile are released, and once the ignition occurs, most times you have an explosion in a flame front or just a fire. Either way, when you play the Fire Safety Research Institute video, that's in a bedroom. You're not going to survive that if you're sleeping in the bedroom at that time of the failure. So that's just awareness. It's not your typical battery. It's a new technology, and every day the technology and the research is moving the yardstick. There's new technology coming out, and we're at the verge of a technology called solid state, which my understanding is going to be a lot more safer and reliable, but we're not there yet. Right now, the current trend is lithium ion, and great technology, but comes with some risk.
And when you have multiple cells in a battery pack.
Yes.
One cell goes off. Does that mean every cell is going to go off in the fire?
There's a risk of what they call thermal runaway. If the other cell is exposed to heat, it's going to go into thermal runaway. It's a chain reaction. So that presents the challenge, because these cells, they're not loose. They're packed in a container that's usually wrapped in metal. Getting water into that compartment to cool the other cells is challenging. And if you don't get to it quickly, it's just going to continue to propagate thermal runaway, and you get cells, not to freak people out, but these cells are being popped everywhere. I can show you videos where you have cells going 30, 40 meters in all directions. And that challenges the fire service, because now you can have multiple areas of origin. The risk of first responders going into a structure, you could be having these flying metal cells coming at them, which are hot molten projectiles.
Fun stuff.
And then our crews don't know. So they're going to a scene, and another big issue is, not issue, but trend is energy storage systems. So these are basically boxes in your home that store energy from solar or from the grid. When there's a power outage, all these cells are there to charge your car and power your house. But could you imagine there's a secondary fire in that garage? Has nothing to do with the energy storage system or the electrical vehicle. That changes the risk to the first responders. The dynamics, we're starting to see that, and we need to change our tactics. So this is probably one of the biggest changes for fire service since the evolution of gasoline.
Okay.
That's how big of an impact it is for us. And we're, in Toronto, we're fortunate. We have some great resources. We have a team of dozens of internal members that are working on a working group. In Toronto, we're also chairing an external working group with various divisions. Toronto Police is on it, and various other provincial and federal divisions to come up with strategies with this evolving technology. So,
what do you do now? I've either been involved in a collision. I think my battery's damaged. I take it to check it out, or I believe that it's going to fail. I just think it's now. It's been damaged in some way. What do I do with it? Where do I take it?
Well, first of all, if you're insured, I would recommend consulting with your insurance company, because if the battery or the vehicle's been damaged, they're going to want to assess it. And if you have that concern, I would ask that it be examined by a licensed professional to give you a report on the viability of this battery.
Well, for the big stuff, I imagine there's lots of people to go to. But I bought I imported something from an unnamed website. I now have this thing. There's no dealer locally. I guess there are bike shops and reputable dealers who service them. But at the end of the day, they say, I wouldn't use this anymore. What do I do with the battery?
I would then, at that point, go to toronto.ca and battery disposal. The city of Toronto, we have a toxic taxi. So if you live in a home, etc., and you are on a garbage route, you can call, schedule an appointment. Someone will come and pick it up.
Toxic taxi.
Yes, and our crews are packaging these batteries that are damaged. So what we'll do is, if we're aware that batteries have been exposed in a fire, our hazardous material team will come, package it, put it in a safe container, remove it to the exterior of the structure, and we'll give you instructions to call the toxic taxi. Comes once a week, and they'll pick it up and transport it. And the city of Toronto's done a great job of disposing of these batteries, because they are, in a way, hazardous material.
I kind of want a T-shirt or something that says "Toxic Taxi." This is great. The things I wasn't expecting. So that's cool. Okay, so Toronto.ca, Toxic Taxi. If there's already a situation where it's failed and it's on fire, we got big problems. Obviously, that's a 911 call.
Yes.
This is very interesting stuff, and I look forward to the future where we have more stable options. But knowing about this stuff is super important, because prior to having the conversation with you, I had no idea this was such a high risk and that there was such a prevalence of these kind of incidents. So just to recap, buying from a reputable, if we're talking bicycles and those alternate vehicles, reputable dealers, ULC listed batteries, appropriate chargers, and checking to make sure things are operating the way they're supposed to be. It would be nice if there was a little red light that says this is about to go boom, but sadly, that's just not technology.
Well, and the other thing is energy storage systems. Hire a competent, licensed electrician. There's permits that need to be taken out, and the electrical safety code actually has a requirement now in Ontario that if you have an energy storage system in your home, there has to be a sign by the meter, so first responders know that it's in your. And when a deal sounds too good of a deal, it's probably not a deal. Right, so there's a lot that goes in the installation of these energy storage systems. Permits need to be taken out. The grid needs to be able to support it. Your infrastructure, all of that needs to be done appropriately, especially with buying an EV vehicle, Type 2 chargers are common. Same thing. You want that installed by a licensed professional with the appropriate permits.
That's exactly where I wanted to go with this, because so many people are buying these and trying to install them or running an extension cord to the 220, not realizing how wires work and how load and how things could very quickly be drawing too much power over the rated cable, and they can heat up.
Correct. And that's called, a high resistance fault, not to get technical, but that's what it is. And, extension cords are temporary wiring. Keyword, temporary wiring. If it's a permanent installation, you want properly installed conductors that are rated for that load and rated for that design, especially with a Type 2 charger, because the Type 1 is just standard plug-in. It's going to take a lot of time to charge. It's not rapid. The Type 2s are a lot quicker.
It's the ones that's on 220.
Yes. Basically, it's a higher current, and you want to make sure that that's installed correctly. You have a licensed electrician, and all the permits are done. At the end of the day, follow the manufacturer's instructions. That's the key. We're not seeing failures from devices that are being certified, used properly, and maintained. We're seeing them in the opposite, when they're not certified, not maintained, not used as designed, and altered. And I can guarantee you, when we're doing our investigations, when we find out a battery's been altered, well, I wanted more power. So I added another battery and I wired them together. Well, it's not designed for that. So what's going to happen? It's going to fail. Inevitably, it's not rated. The wiring's not rated. The motor's not rated. The charger's not rated for it, and it's going to go into failure.
We see a lot of e-bikes that are designed and sold to go a certain speed. So if they play with the speed box and they alter it and they're drawing more power out of it than it was designed, that's a potential right there.
Correct.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's not certified with the caveat, it's certified to work, but you can change it. It's certified for as designed.
Well, look at the people who used to take their x86 computer and they'd overclock it, and then they'd have to do all sorts of things to keep it cool. Doing more with something that's not designed causes issues.
Yes. So if we talk about the three areas of lithium-ion batteries: micromobility, vehicles, and energy storage systems. In Toronto, we're only seeing an issue so far with micromobility.
Wow.
And we're trying to get the message out. They're prevalent technology. You go to any box store, you're going to find a device with lithium-ion batteries. Guaranteed. The key is doing your homework, doing your research, and buying the right quality product that's tested and using it appropriately. So
I was going to say we could just go back to lead acid on big trailers.
Well, I don't know how efficient that would be. So
it's funny. The first thing when you started talking about this way back 20 minutes ago, or however long we've been talking, the booster packs, those packs that start your car, that's a lot of power. I was shocked that could even do that, but that must be exactly the same thing, packing all that into one little package, and something that could be loose in a vehicle in a collision. There's so many potential issues that come to mind as we go down the rabbit hole of these batteries. But at the end of the day, I think this is great advice. We'll share this with everybody, and hopefully, if you're watching, you share it with the people that you care about, because it's great information, and the goal is to keep everybody safe. Not saying don't buy EVs, saying do these things to improve your odds of being safe.
There's an old saying, follow the manufacturer's instructions. And what do we usually do? We get something new, we throw the instructions aside and just do what we do. In this case, we highly recommend following the instructions. Don't alter the device. Use it as designed. If you suspect the battery's damaged, have it checked out. If you see it smoking,
that's a really good hint.
That's a bad sign. So gather your family and leave your home and call 911. And on that note, the single most important thing that all of us can do for our safety at home, it's the simplest thing. It doesn't cost you a lot of money. Having a working smoke alarm on every level of your home, and your home escape plan.
I like that. CO2 detector as well.
Same thing. If you have an appliance that's a fueled appliance, like a natural gas stove or fireplace, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector in your home. It's the law. Detection is key. Getting out of the home, calling 911. Now, the average smoke alarm, if you're changing it, they have 10-year batteries now. You can not worry about the battery for 10 years. You should test it twice a year, though. Still test it to make sure it's working. You're talking $15 to $20. And that, on every level of your home, will be the best thing you can do to ensure your family's safety. 56% of homes that we investigated after a fire did not have working smoke alarms in the city of Toronto.
Wow.
And it's a common theme of our fire fatalities. A simple smoke alarm would have saved the family's life. And
That's shocking.
It is shocking. It's we need to do a better job of imploring the importance of a working smoke alarm. Years ago, seatbelts were a problem. Police and across the country did a great job imploring to the public that you need to wear your seatbelt. It's the law. Same with a smoke alarm. It's the law, and there's significant fines if you're violating that. But I think the takeaway is, for your family's safety, it doesn't take you much. Just check your smoke alarm. If it doesn't work, put a new one up. And if you're not sure how to do it, call your local fire service. They'll help you.
I had a situation many moons ago. Toronto came by. There was an issue with the fire, the fire detector or smoke detector. They put a new one up for me. They just stuck it up. They had one in the truck. They just gave it to me. I was really impressed. I don't know if that's the thing, but it was a thing that day. Nothing but good things to say about Toronto Fire and the people who are there to keep you safe, whether it be fire, police, ambulance. We all have a role to play in keeping everyone safe. And thank you to all of you and for you for coming in here to talk about this. I do have one other thing. I see it smoking. Pick it up and run with it and take it out of the house, or get out and leave it where it is.
Gather your family, get out, call 911.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
Because it may go up real fast.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I had visions of people doing really stupid things. I had to say, I wanted to cover that.
We've seen cases where, there's a fire emergency and people say, well, I'm going to go get my passport. I'm going to get my laptop. I'm going to go get my suit. No, you don't have that time. Fires develop so rapidly, especially with modern furnishing and the fuel load part, like the heat release rate. We recommend you should be out of your house or 90 seconds. Gather your family and get out. Yes. Call 911 from the outside. Don't go back in. Don't attempt to go recover something. We see a lot of fatals year after year for that. Just get out, call 911. Crews will respond, will suppress the fire.
Everything can be replaced except you.
Correct.
And the family.
Correct.
That whole people thing.
And part of your home escape plan should involve your pets as well. So, you come up with a plan, you take into consideration your children and your pets, and you assign duties in your family, and you have your meeting place and practice it. So when the emergency happens at 2:00 in the morning, you're not trying to figure it out when you're half asleep. You should, muscle memory. You know your plan, you know what you need to do, and you put it into action.
I need to do some more work with this whole fire safety plan, because I know that there's improvements to be made. It's not something my wife and I have talked about it, but now the kids are old enough to be part of that plan. I need to revisit it. Is there a good resource?
You can imagine how many smoke alarms I have in my home. So fire safety is
every room.
Every room.
Yeah.
Every bedroom we have a smoke alarm. Every level of the house. Laundry rooms, all the rooms. We have, just because I've seen the outcome of the benefit of early detection and the tragedy that occurs when while you're sleeping, you're not going to detect a working fire.
Well, I worry about being too deep asleep and not real. I've been awoken by an alarm. It was I don't know what the heck. It was in a hotel. It wasn't at home, but it's not exactly a fun experience.
No.
But I always worry about, what if I sleep through it? What if it didn't wake me up? So the every room makes a lot of sense.
Well, the current building code requires new homes. You have to have a smoke alarm in every room. Not only battery backup, also hardwired, and a strobe.
Really?
Yes, that's the most current building code requires that. Now, in existing homes, the law says you need to maintain what came with your home. But if it was built prior to the building code, you need to have one on every level of your home outside of sleeping rooms, and carbon monoxide detector outside of sleeping rooms as well, if you have a fuel-fired appliance.
Well, I've got the one on every floor, but now I got to get one in every room, because now you got me all worked up.
Well, that's an option. And we highly recommend it because it's the earlier detection. The sooner you're detected, the quicker you can react and gather your family and get out of the house.
We're going to have a lot of conversations about fire, because it's something that's not my area of stuff I know.
Happy to do it.
Awesome.
Happy to.
I'll put everybody out of their misery. We've covered batteries every which way. I'm sure there's questions that will come out of this, and send them, because we'll follow up. We'll get Larry to come back.
I'd love to.